So I got more credit cards to get out of debt. Like, what is going on? Oh my God, this is blowing me right now. Oh my God, bro, like, I'm not understanding. Like, I'm supposed to be doing better for myself, but I got all these credit cards right now, bro. Like,
Cute mug. It's real cute.
excuse me, ma'am.
Yes.
I see you got credit, and I'm over here playing with these credit cards, trying to figure out, like, I'm in debt right now.
Not playing with them, huh? But listen, I do have a book called The Miseducation of Credit.
That's your
Self-published.
book?
My book.
Do you have time?
I got a few minutes today.
Can we talk?
Absolutely. Let's do it.
Thank you so much.
You're welcome. Anytime. It's my passion. It's my heart.
What's up, everybody? How y'all doing? Welcome to the third episode of the Finao Phase Not an Option show. In this episode, we got flavor this one. New Orleans connection. So y'all gonna hear that baby that was Zam in this one. So I'd like to introduce our special guest.
Hi, my name's Drea Diane.
Nice to meet you.
Likewise.
So on this episode, as y'all can see, I have a notebook and pen. I will be taking notes because we're talking about financial literacy, and I will let you be the teacher.
Absolutely. So listen, this year I self-published my first book titled The Miseducation of Credit. And so Finao, let's just get into it.
All right. So, okay, what's the most important thing that people need to know about credit?
Most important thing, understanding it, right? Because a lot of times we see a lot of videos, we see TikToks, we see Reels, and really too, most people, they don't know how to read a credit report. So the credit report, I always call that your adult report card.
Adult report card.
That's your adult report card, right? It tells, I can look at that when I was in underwriting. I can tell you 90% of your life outside of what you do on the weekends and hang out, but your lifestyle, as far as your spending habits, as far as if you know how to spend money well, if you know how to manage it well, if you know how to pay your payments on time. And so when I'm looking at that, again, I'm grading you. Okay, you know what? I can possibly lend this person some money. Sometimes all the way at 100% or under certain stipulations, right? That I can give somebody some money. So a lot of times we don't know what that is, and it can seem gibberish to you if that's not your language. Also understanding your rights with the FCRA, the Fair Credit Reporting Act. There's a lot of sections in there. It's a lot of jargon that may intimidate some people. So in this, I kind of break this down for you. What does that look like? And kind of make it's an easy read. I don't want it to be intimidating because this topic is.
Okay, and you get the viewers who say, okay, I don't need credit. I got all of this cash sitting around. I could just pay cash with all this.
All right, so let's say, for instance, you go to get a loan. Okay. Right, now unless you have, we just talked about mortgages, right? Sure, buying a house. Typically, if you have $400,000 in the bank, by all means, go pay cash. It's gonna save you on your interest over term, but you need that credit to build stability. And also, again, it's your report card. So in the event you know what, I need some house repairs now. The lender needs to see that they can trust you, and that's the key word in this trust, that they can trust you and lend you some money on the behalf of, I don't really know Finao, but he may be okay because I can look at this and say, he's paid this person on time, he's paid that person on time, because we don't have any personal history, but your adult report card, your credit report can say, okay, I can trust him a little bit, maybe for 6 months, maybe 12 months on this term, that he paid me this amount back. So you do need some type of credit established. Again, unless you're just that person that has that much in assets lying around, but also too, you need to protect your assets. Don't liquidate all of your assets. Borrow against the money. And again, there's a lot of games you can play, even getting credit cards. Make a purchase on the credit card, earn those points, those cash rewards, book a flight, let it accumulate, and then you're gonna make that payment immediately after. So again, you're showing them now that you can make payments on time, you can pay that debt of what you just purchased on time. And so that's looking good. So I'm like, hey, about 6 months, I might give them some more, increase their credit limit, right? So it's a game. I always call it a gamble. Credit is a gamble. So you do need credit. Yeah, you do need to establish the trade lines, which some people don't know what that word is. It's an account. It's just the account that's on your credit report, a trade line.
So you mentioned a trade line. What is that specifically?
Right. So a trade line is basically an account. So every account is identified on your credit report as a trade line. So you have different types of trade lines. You have a revolving account, which is your credit cards, your line of credits. Then you have an installment account, which is your personal loans, your signature loans. Then of course a mortgage that will show on there as well. So you have different type of trade lines. So again, credit cards, open-end accounts with your line of credits. And you have also your mortgage, you have student loans. So every account is a trade line.
Okay.
So yeah, basically it's a layman's terms for account.
So all of this information you told me, like, I'm ready to dive into this book
Let's
that's in
do
front
it.
of me. So the title, Miseducation of Credit. What do you mean by that?
A lot of people are, what I found, that we want the quick fix. We want to go, we see the signs on the road that say, hey, I can repair your credit.
Yeah.
And again, I don't knock anybody if their gifts and talents, but I do believe in operating with integrity, right? Because I've coached individuals, some of my clients, whereas we're working on their credit report and then we get everything worked out with the creditors. We do settlement letters. We do, have them remove the account if they can't validate it. Because again, you're protected through the FCRA Section 609, 611 of the Fair Credit Reporting Act, right? And so within that, I've had it to where I've said, okay, they'll tell me, I've worked with somebody before you. Then we clean our credit report. Credit is going amazing. Credit score going up. Then they get hit with an old account. It comes back.
Wow.
Right? Because again, though, also too, that person or that company didn't teach them how to read a credit report or what they were actually doing on their credit report for them, what kind of work, so they can follow up and monitor it to make sure, again, and it goes into, again, integrity, right? I tell my clients, if you look for me to delete everything or have you do that, I'm not your coach.
Yeah.
I'm not your average coach. That's something I live by. I'm not your average coach. I'm going to tell you no. So it's not about the money for me. It's about results and integrity.
I like that. So, okay, let's dive into it.
Let's do it.
So you want to go into module 1, introduction, however you want to go about it.
We can do module 1 because the
right.
intro is basically kind of talking about, how I came about with this.
Okay.
But module 1, go ahead.
So module 1 reads, not the typical dinner conversation.
Right. Growing up in New Orleans, we didn't always sit at the dinner table. That wasn't something.
True.
Growing up, that we had dinner together. It's not typical, right? The parents always at work or something. So again, you come home from school, and so talking about finances, financial literacy, how to build credit, how to, as a child, being added as an authorized user on your parents' account, as long as they're responsible. Let's be honest. So,
if they're responsible.
Right, if they're responsible. Because again, you'll get the same impact they get. If they go above their 30% threshold with their debt, their limits on that particular account, or that credit card, it affects you as well. So, but they can help you establish and build credit and then teach you how do you keep that going. Because again, when I came out of high school, I thought getting credit cards was the thing to do. I thought you were popular if you got a lot of credit cards, and I thought we were just supposed to spend this card. I know how to make a payment. I know how to make a payment, but no one told me how to leverage, how not to max out the card. What does that mean, right? So again, preparing us for the real world. Like that show, A Different World is a real thing. We go out there in the real world, and it's different out there for us. So understanding again how to manage your money, so we don't have these conversations, and we should, because finance is going to always be a part of our life. Financial literacy is going to always be a part of our lives.
And you mentioned the credit card, which is interesting, because they have that principal, things to that nature. Like, so what is exactly like the principal portion of the credit card?
Well, the principal portion, that principal goes into the installments. With credit cards, you have accrued interest, and you have finance charges. So within that, the best principle to follow on that is to pay so for instance, let's say you go make a purchase on your card. It's a brand new card, you make a purchase this month. Find out when does your billing cycle end for the month of this month, right? So once you find that out, you pay your credit card in full. If you can, if your finances, your budget allows you to, pay it in full to avoid the interest that's accrued, right? Now, also, of course, pay before your due date. If not, you're going to get charged a late fee. And so you do have typically maybe $35, $45 late fees. And then when in turn, your payment was probably $35.
Yeah.
So now you've accrued more interest on top of that because they've added this into your loan, the actual credit card balance, right? So knowing how to leverage a credit card, right? If you have a card, also keep it below 30%. Most of my clients, I tell them keep it right at 3%, 5% if they can, but everybody's budget is different. But at the max, I'm going to have you keep it at that 30% threshold. So a lot of times people will see, they may say, I pay my credit cards on time, but I don't see my credit score moving. That's because once you exceed 30%, the lenders consider you maxed out. That affects your credit score.
And so, yeah, like you said, from being from New Orleans, like, it's interesting. Like, how did you even, like, got into this bubble of
I fell in love with numbers. I fell in love with numbers. So right after high school, I went into college, but also too, I worked at the credit union. So I've done that. I did that for 17 years, working in the financial industry and that, and then 6 years in the nonprofit sector. So numbers have always been my thing, right? And so it's a funny story. When I came out of high school, I went to Xavier, and I was studying pre-med. I'm like, I don't even like watching the TLC channel, somebody cutting somebody, so I know that's not for me. I just, was watching the Huxtables and the Cosby Show, like, I want to be a doctor, I want to make some money. I just thought all doctors were rich, like, I want money. And so I knew I was attracted to money, but I fell in love with numbers. So I was at that time, we was writing in our check registers, and if a penny was off in my check register, I need to find that penny that day. Like, where is it at? Did I spend it? Did it, something not adding up? Did I miss did I not carry my one, in my numbers? So doing my check register and balancing it. And so, of course, that was a thing for me. So I fell in love with numbers. I'm like, again, working in the credit union industry, I did loans. I work with customers and seeing them either get approved, denied, begin to understand what credit score was. And then as I've gotten a little older, I was like, let me really study this. Let me study this game, A lot of people have mastered it. And so, but again, laws begin to pass, that protects us as a consumer. So we do have some type of leverage. And again, how do you maximize on this? Because these three numbers really dictate the way you can move in life. Credit is those three numbers. Those numbers are powerful. It determines your interest rate. It determines how much you pay to get your utilities turned on. It determines if you get approved, for a home, a car, a personal loan. So it's a lot. It's a lot, right? So I just let me help people, because this, again, a lot of people don't deal with this because it intimidates them. It triggers them. It brings back something.
That's a great point. So like you mentioned, so we still on the module one when you sit at dinner table. So for young viewers, that's let's say you're a 26-year-old, 27, 28, you have a young family right now.
Right.
You're the head of the household and now you have children. So what is that step that they can make to start to have these type of sit downs, dinner talks?
Yeah, definitely educate them, because a lot of time now these kids, they want to follow the trend.
Correct.
They want to have the latest brand shoes, the latest. And again, I don't knock anybody, but I've never seen, looking at prom pictures, Balenciagas and when I was in prime, maybe we were basic. You know what I'm saying? I know our parents couldn't afford that. I was like, okay, but teach them though it's okay to have nice things, but teach them the principles behind it, right? How do you live beyond your means? And so for me, I'm the type, if I want an expensive shoe, that's like an annual gift for me. Yeah. I can go buy it again if I wanted to, but I know for me, let me stay within my means. Let me make sure, that I budget. So teach them the budgeting skills, teach them how to survive in the real world. Right? Because a lot of people now, we're suffering with inflation.
Yeah.
And I've read that, a lot of people are now selling their homes to rent or possibly look for a roommate to afford to live. Not just to afford the lifestyle, but to afford to live. So it's beyond. Yeah. And so a lot of times kids are sponges. So give it to them early. Let them soak that knowledge in, and they'll be like, you know what? I remember my dad. I remember my mom said, and you'll think about that, right? And again, but they're going to make their own decisions in life. But you can at least say, you know what? I gave them every tool they need to survive in this world. Teach them about interest, principle. No, don't get a credit card with an interest rate that's 24.99%. Shop around. Go to your bank and see if it's a little cheaper, right?
24.9.
But it's real, again, I fell into those traps. So, for me, I've been here. I've been into filing for bankruptcy. I've been into getting my credit back, was able to close on my home last year, but I couldn't do it without the work being done. And so one of the things that triggered me to write this is after losing my dad, I fell into a depression. And one of the things that I let get affected was my credit score.
Wow.
Didn't pay something and it went to this, but I knew too, I have a right to this. Let me look at this, right? And again, there's different letters that you can send off to your creditor. So all that's in the book, like certain letters, but again, you have to understand the language.
Yeah.
Also too, one of the topics, the modules in here, and I made it like a school book. So you got the chalk theme on here. Yeah. I broke it down into modules. Being transparent and being vulnerable with the creditors. When they call you and say, hey, you missed your payment, don't get an attitude with them.
Yeah.
The ball is in their court.
For sure.
You're already late. They're giving you and they sometimes are nasty and rude, but they have a job. They have a quota to meet to keep their job going. And so, but it's just, again, but the biggest thing that I found and something I'm writing now is talking about financial trauma. So a lot of people can't deal with this first until they're healed.
Correct.
So I have a hoodie all brand. It's called Financial Healing. So it's deep. So until some people probably can't pick this up just yet, or they may pick it up, you know what, let me get my life together. But there are things that trigger that, whether it's from a divorce, somebody becoming disabled, now they depending on someone else for income, and they feel like, I'm not competent enough, I need to, so they don't deal with it or reminds them of that ex-husband, that ex-wife, and they mad all over again. And they just pushed away, right? And so you have to really, so a lot of topics in this that talks about that. I'm teaching you how to read a credit report. I'm outlining every line on that credit report, the trade lines, making sure your date of birth is correct. So it's a lot in here that, again, that people weren't educated on.
You said the date of birth.
And right. Look, somebody said, I looked at the book, it was small. I said, you're focusing on the quality and not, you focus on the quantity of this book and not the quality.
Not the quality.
It's a lot of information in here. It's a lot.
To read.
So right.
So yeah, that go back to, so not go back, but that goes to my next one. What is credit?
So credit, again, I call it a gamble, right? It's understanding, but also too, credit is the lending of funds based on trust, right? But it's also giving you an opportunity to build your adult report card, that credit report, and also understanding, what type of credit. We talked about the installment loans, the revolving loans, and also too, how do you manage those? What is the interest rate? What is a term in the loan? How long should you, the finance? So learning those terminologies. I have a glossary in the back of this book that gives you some of this terminology so it won't seem like gibberish or jargon or intimidating to you. So in the back, we have a breakdown of what some of the words you're going to hear when you're going to get a loan, right? When you're talking to a loan officer, when you're, again, reading the book, it makes sense to you now that you understand what that term means. So again, credit is a gamble. It's basically what it is. It's a gamble. Once you learn and understand it, though, it's like going to Vegas. It's like, right, betting, sports betting, right? You may go under 7, all that. So, but once you master it, but it's a mindset too. It's a mindset. So.
Okay, so within the credit, going deeper, you got the FICO versus the Vantage score. So what is the difference, or what is that in general?
So you have FICO and Vantage, right? You have Experian, Equifax, TransUnion. They all use different scoring models, right? So one may use FICO, the other may use Vantage. FICO bases off the 5 factors of payment history, debt utilization, the length of credit history, the mixture of accounts, and the type of accounts, versus FICO, and it goes 35, 30, 15, 10, 10, right? Vantage weighs it 41% here of the payment history, so it's a little heavier, which is why you see a difference in your credit scores.
I see.
That's one reason why you see.
Okay.
So you're like, you know what? All 3 of my credit reports, my scores are different. One of the reasons is because depending on if they're using FICO or Vantage. The other one is that especially, let's say you have an account with T-Mobile. They may not report to all 3 credit bureaus. So your weight on 2 of them may match and 1 may not, because that account is not getting any weight measured within that scoring model.
That makes sense.
Yeah.
Okay. Now that definitely makes sense now, because I know a lot of viewers, watching this, they was interested in the FICO, because I see that with my credit sometimes.
Yeah.
You got the 2 different ones, and I'm kind of like, wow, this one different from this one. But because they weigh it differently.
It's way different.
So, okay, now that's actually dope. And so why is the length of credit history important?
Length of credit history gives you that leverage. So again, it weighs 15%, but and also too, you're thinking about, say, student loans is a big thing right now. A lot of people's student loans are being paid off. So their length of credit history is going to be affected because they may have had the student loans 10, 15 years.
Correct.
Versus now, if you close that account, let's say they had, that's the only accounts they had, right? They close that account, you now have 0 years of history because it's going to close that account out. It's going to affect the length of credit history.
Yeah,
but it's a gamble because you can take away my student loan debt. I'm going to take the hit on my credit score for a few months and rebuild it because we can rebuild this thing.
Rebuild it, come on.
But you can take that debt. I'd rather the debt be gone versus me losing a few points that I know I can regain.
Yeah, come on now.
So again, you got to gamble. Choose your battles, as they say. Choose your battles.
Okay. Now I like this information because this is very important.
Yeah.
Because I realize a lot of people get in all of this debt. They don't know how to get out. They don't even know where to start. They just keep putting themselves in more debt. Like I learned from a financial advisor, they were saying like, don't use your credit card unless you have the cash to pay it back.
You know what I'm saying? So,
and that's true. So we talked about that because again, that looks good to the lenders. Like, okay, he just charged something for $1,500. He went back and made the payment like 2 days later, or right immediately once it posts to your account. They're now looking, okay, he can make again. It goes back to those 5 factors: on-time payments, right? He's leveraging his credit, and again, he's staying below that 30% threshold when he does this. And so that's what makes it. Yeah, that's how you play that game.
Okay. And it says the lack of financial literacy.
Right. Even in the word it says, we perish for the lack of knowledge.
We do.
But a lot of times too, they said, if you want to keep something from us, you put it in a book. All we gotta do is read. The information's out there, and the lesson is, the biggest thing is, everything's on social media now. And so for me too, I took it a step further. I'm certified in this. So I know, again, that's why I'm big on integrity too. I have to coach on to a certain standard. I can't just, let me delete everything as fraud, or let me sell you a trade line. Again, I don't knock anybody to do it, but that's just not my coaching style. Just is not how I do it. And so a lot of people, again, they don't know. And so when you don't know, you make, unconscious decisions of, what, let me do this, and I shouldn't have done this. And then years later, you're regretting it because now you're really into adulthood and you want to make some adult decisions, but you can't because of decisions you made 5 years ago. And it's haunting you now, right? So, again, just really understand what that is.
So would that go to the next one, which would be the power of the 3 numbers?
Yes. We talked about that even with the mortgage industry taking a big boom, right? And during this pandemic, the rates were great. And so, you qualify for a great interest rate on the mortgage. And then too, a lot of people, what I tell people to, be mindful when you're under that process of, I'm going to stay on the mortgage piece a little bit because people don't talk about that a lot. We talk about the auto loans. But the mortgage side of it is, you get pre-approved, you go out there, you go under contract, you posting, you jumping in the air on social media, I'm under contract. But in that time that you're under contract, and for me, I was under new construction, you got to manage all that. You have to, I had to put a freeze on my credit reports until the lender said, hey, we're going to be pulling again. Because they're going to monitor your credit report throughout this whole process. Yeah. And it goes into, I'm glad I did because somebody tried to apply for a PayPal credit card account. While I'm under contract, I got a letter and said, hey, your loan application has been denied because we couldn't verify who you were. That's because I had a freeze on it.
Yeah, that's why.
So that saved me, So I'm like, because that could disqualify me for the entire loan. Because one, it would have hit my credit report, and they tell you when you're under contract, don't apply for anything, don't go buy furniture, don't spend money, because they're going to ask for your bank statements. It's a process. It's a stressful process when you're buying a house. And had I not took the steps, precautionary steps to make sure, okay, my credit stays protected, I'm not shopping, I'm not buying any furniture. And so what I did was, and within that turn, because if I did, it would have possibly decreased my credit score. What does that do now? Increase my interest rate. So now, if my interest rate is increased, my monthly payment, my mortgage payment is increased. Yeah. So I have to look at it. You got to reevaluate your whole life. Can I afford this now? If it went from, let's say your mortgage was $1,500, now it's going to $1,900. Did you budget for that additional $400 a month because of a mistake you made in not protecting your credit score? So those numbers are powerful, right? It tells how much you put down for utilities. So imagine you being a renter, you're going to pay for, get everything cut on, your lights, water, all this cut on, and you get there and they tell you it's a $500 deposit. Did you budget for that? Do you have that in your savings? Because it's based on your credit score. Car insurance is based upon our credit score. Car insurance, they legit. There was only one state that recently, a couple years ago, and I may be wrong, I want to say it's Ohio, but I may be wrong, where the commissioner has taken that away, that stipulation away. They need to. So just based it off my driving record, not my credit score. So it really controls a lot that we do, right? So a lot of times, again, you see that, and the credit score too, a lot of people was able to leverage it during a pandemic. The stimulus money came out, so people were able to pay off debt that they couldn't pay off before. So they said the average credit score went up, on average, about 16 points for the U.S. when the pandemic hit. And so 16 points increase may be decent for somebody. I've taken them now from six something to the 700 boost. So again, but typically you may see an average of 16 to 46 points in, credit score increase. But again, it's having the money, right? But again, I can't coach you on how to get your credit intact if you can't budget well.
If you can't. No, come on.
Yeah. If you can't budget well, I can't help you there.
Because that's true though. And so that's another thing too, like I realized, like with credit cards, I noticed, like you can go to like Chase Bank, get a credit card, you can go to Navy Federal or something like that. But then there's these in-store credit cards. Like what's your take on that? Do you prefer just getting a regular credit card and spending it at the store, or get that in-store credit card?
Regular credit card. Again, because I didn't know any better back then, again, I don't have kids, I had Babies R Us, I had Toys R Us, I had nieces and nephews. Because I was like, I thought I had some superpowers. I'm like, wait, I'm able to get this credit card? Because you walk up to the counter and it's, hey, would you like to save 10% today, right?
Correct.
Sounds good. I'm like, I was in Macy's, I never forget it. And I was like, yeah, let me say this 10%. And as I got older, I'm like, 10% was tax. But I didn't pay attention to the 24.99% that was coming in the mail with my billing statement on that purchase. When I could have just paid cash that day, because I went in there without having a card in the beginning. I was planning on paying cash anyway that day. But now I'm stuck in this cycle of, I got a credit card, I can go in the store and I can shop. And back then, I'm telling my age a little bit, credit cards didn't have the Visa, MasterCard logo on it. It was strictly to that department store. And so now they've gotten a hip tool. Let me add that logo on it, because creditors are in business to make money. So when they do that, it's you going into the department store getting that credit card, interest rate are much higher, in the 20s, right? Versus you going to your bank, your credit union, where you've built a relationship, where there's some rapport there. And you can, they're looking at, again, your adult credit report card, and they can negotiate that rate for, you know what, you've been a customer for this long, or your credit score is this, and that. We're going to get you at 9.99%. And they may have a 0% introductory rate, right? And so you build that relationship on that. So that's, I'm always pro bank, pro credit union.
Yeah, that would make sense.
Getting that, yeah.
So like, why do you think like, it's like people hearing this, they like, dang, credit is really a serious thing. Like, why do you think it's so big the way it is? Like,
we need it. It's a part of everything we do. The cars we drive out there, unless you pay cash, you finance that car. This building that we possibly in, unless they pay cash for the building, their credit leverage them to be able to get the building. Everything we do, right? To get a job, they check your credit score, especially in the financial industry.
That's crazy.
Right. I was like, you thought you did good on the interview, they pull your credit report, and they're like, oh no. Because again, they say, what? I can't trust this person working around my money. I go back to that word trust. So you can, then now, your application is null and void, and they have to send you a denial letter or application saying, hey, we have to overturn your offer, right? So, but it determines everything. Everything. I said, unless you're that person that just has those assets, and then you just want to liquidate all your assets, then you don't need credit. That's what I'm gonna tell you. If you feel that, and I've had that conversation with somebody, and they just feel like, I don't need credit, and they're in business. The business flunked, then they couldn't come back and get money to bring it back up because they didn't take care of their personal credit. All right, so it's a part of our life.
And I also hear like you got personal credit, and I heard like business credit. Like, what's the? I mean, obviously you can tell the difference business wise and personal.
And I'll be honest, I'm not the expert in the business credit aspect.
Right, okay,
that personal, but business credit again, it's different. There are some business credit gurus that's out there that's mastering it, killing it. And so again, you have to know to stay where your lane is, right? Sure. But I'm definitely studying that, because again, it's one in one, right? Again, there's some accounts, and I heard about the net 30s and all that. And so with me being in business now, I'm building all that, right? And so again, making sure, so most lenders are not looking for the Duns and Bradstreet, what I've been reading. And so, but Duns and Bradstreet is another source that you need, even going out to get the government contracts. So building up on all that stuff. So business credit is a lot, just like your personal credit.
Yeah.
So I tell people, don't jump into the business if you don't understand personal. You're going to be really confused in laws. A net 30, another credit score I have to monitor. Wow. So it's different. The numbers are different, right? What they're looking at. So, yeah.
This is a lot.
It's a lot.
But it's needed, because I really do believe, like, understanding credit is serious the way it is. Like, if you can take care of your credit, it's like basically taking care of like your personal self.
Right. Like
self-care.
So I'm glad you said that, right? Because if you don't take care of this, it affects you. And I told you, the trauma, it plays on your mental. You feel, like I'm not enough. I'm irresponsible, and you start self-doubting yourself.
That's a great point. Yes.
So it's a really, that's why I teach on writing a series now on how to heal from this. Mm-hmm. And so a lot of people, they stray away from that, or I've been in conversations and I can tell people's posture change. I see a baby again. I'm like, wow, like this really did something to you, right? But you have to really take the time to heal. Mm-hmm. And again, face it. And I talk about that in some of my workshops. You got to face this thing. You got to confront it and take responsibility. You know what, I did mess up. I didn't answer that 1-800 number call and settle this account. And I wasn't open and honest with them, let them know, hey, I'm now unemployed, or I can't afford the payment. What can we do? So I talk about that, having those conversations with the creditors, right? So it's a lot. It's a lot in here.
I see that. But it's like I can hear your passion about it. Like, you know,
yeah,
you hear it, like you turn, like this gets your juices flowing. But it's like, why someone like you want to push this out here? Like, because you don't have to do that. You can keep all this game and keep this to yourself.
One of the things I've done in my field all my life is serve and helping people. Mm-hmm. So I love serving. I love helping people. And if this can help somebody change their life, I've had clients with testimonials who purchased a home and because they work with me and they followed my work plan, you know? And so again, it's not all about the money for me, but it's about making an impact. Mm-hmm. And so I've seen where people come in and they can't afford to get a loan to bury a loved one, and I'm like, that broke me. I'm like, okay, people need to know this. But I was on that side where I couldn't tell that person, hey, you need to go do this and that, because I was a loan officer, right?
Yeah, can you explain that? So like, yeah, that's a thing. Like when someone dies, your family member, like you have to have credit
to get a loan or bury if you don't have an insurance policy. You know, and it goes to my experience with my dad. You know, I was in New Orleans in a funeral home. Again, my mentor wasn't there to even think about what I was really, I said, when you all going to get them dressed? They said, we get the money. And I was like, that's a business, you're right. I had to sit back and process that. So they legit, they don't do nothing. You go out, you pick out the casket, you do all that. And so that's when it hit. I was like, it's a business. I get it. I have to respect that.
For sure.
That's their business. So, but yeah, you can have a loved one out there just stranded because you don't have the funds to bury him. So as people start talking about cremation, but that's a cost in itself too, right? So again, then you come in to get a loan, and then the loan will go through because your personal credit messed up. And now you already stressed out because you've lost a loved one. Now you got to figure out how I'm going to bury that person. Mm-hmm. And then again, the funds aren't there allocated to put towards the funeral expenses. You know, funerals aren't cheap. You know?
So like the viewers watching, that's like one of those people that's like, she literally talking about me right now. Like, how can they make some type of strides or steps to put themselves in better position?
Oh, one, get the book. Get the book. Everything's in the book, right? But listen, get it. It's at www.DreaDiane.com. But honestly, face the reality of it. Look at the mistakes you made. Pull up that credit report and work on each account one by one. Face that and like, you know what, this month I'm going to, and if it may take you time. Because again, I don't know how bad it triggers you looking at an account and say, you know what, you mad because my ex left me this account. They left me in this debt. And you see a lot with divorces, right? I can read somebody's credit report and like, think like that's from their divorce decree and they had to close that account out. So now that's hurt their credit score because they have to close it per the divorce decree, right? Or they have to refinance it all by themselves now. And can you afford to do that?
Right.
So it's, again, life decisions affect this. And so I would tell you, take it one account at a time, right? But truly understand what you're looking at, what you're disputing, the type of conversations you having with that creditor, and you can possibly come to a settlement. And but there's so many things in here that talks about all that. So it's a deep read. Mm-hmm. It's not an intimidating read. It's an easy read. But if you're afraid of it, it's going to overwhelm you. But if you're ready to face it, it's going to help you.
It's going to help you. So like when you buried your dad, was that when it clicked like I need to get my credit and all that?
No, because it happened after that. After paying for the funeral and all that stuff, and just went into a depression. I didn't really care about my finances too much, I would say. You know what I'm saying? I'm like, wait a minute. I'm out here working in this field, and I'm playing with this. It has affected my credit, but not that it affected my credit, it affected my mental. I had gained weight. I had really just was in a slump. And I didn't see it till I started looking at side-by-side pictures of life when I made that decision. Like, let me get my life together, right? Let me heal from this. And once I really faced and went into the reality of my dad's really not here, and I can talk about it now because I've healed from it.
Correct.
I was like, I'm looking at my pictures, I'm like, I was really depressed. But you don't see it, and the people around you don't much see because they always see you, right? Because I was asking my friend, like, why y'all didn't tell me nothing? They're like, we didn't see it, like, so you put that side by side when you decide, you know what, I'm going to take my life back. I'm going to heal again. I'm going to go out and get my life back. And then the pandemic happened, so it put us in another dark place. But I was good. At that point, I was working on me. I was like, you know what, the world is quiet. Let me take the time to work on my credit. It's quiet, everybody inside. It's not noisy out here. And so even when I wrote this book, I wrote it in this coffee shop that we sitting in. Because I'm the type that environments matter to me. The people around me matter. Yeah. So I love coffee. I'm a coffee drinker. But also, too, it's something about a coffee shop that I can get in here and I could just flow. I could just flow. I have an in-home office, but I'm like, if I sit in here, I'm going to go upstairs and go take a nap. So let me go out to the coffee shop. And I came in here, for a couple of months and sat in here and shut them down. It was taking the trash out and I'm still writing. I'm like, I'm coming, my bad, y'all, I'm coming. So.
Hey. So that tells you everything, like with the credit, it just basically is the center of it all. Like if your circle, if the people you're around, if your environment isn't right, that would affect everything.
Everything, because also too, you get to, again, your circle. If you see your friends growing and you're stagnant, it's not them. You can't be mad at them. You need to do something about it, right? And so again, I believe big time, the energy you keep around you, the people you keep around you, that help dictate and play a part of your life, of how you're gonna move and your responses to things and people. And so I'm big on energy and reciprocating and giving it back, so for me, I had to have the right people around me, praying for me and all that. And one of my best friend told me, she said, God is going to make you so uncomfortable until you write that book.
Wow.
And I tell you, Q4 of last year kicked my behind. Dang. I was like, God, I'm really being tested.
So how recent is this book?
I wrote this book this year. I zoned in every night I was in here. You can ask them, ask the owners. I was in here every night. And I was like, I got to get this done. Like I said, I was in here today. They closed at 10. I was in at 10 p.m. Like the whole square was empty. It was like a movie out here when I would leave. But I was, once again, I'm driven in this. I know about this. And so I would write at home. I would put my phone in. God would wake me up sometimes 2, 3 in the morning. And I'll put it in my notes in my phone. Like, this is what I need to talk about in this book. This is what I need to talk about. So I wanted to make sure that it helped people. It's just not something, because I'm telling about my stories in here too. I'm talking from the way I'm talking to you now. So I didn't make it, seem all, the prettiest conversation in here, but it's relatable. Yeah. Also too, you can read it. Like I said, it's an easy read. But I had to really just, whenever God really, I'm like, let me do it, And so when I did, it opened up so many doors. Like I'm sitting here now with you,
right,
you know what I'm saying?
Nah.
So you met me at a book event, the Black Writers event,
Yep.
So I just thank God that I had those people around me to push me. My sister, my aunt and my mom, that needed to write that book.
But it's crazy that you're saying that because, like I was telling her when I was at so we met at the Black Writers Weekend, and I did interviews. She was one of the people I did, but like out of all the interviews, she was the only interview who it was like static. So you couldn't really hear what she was saying. And so like, it's cool that we actually get this interview in because obviously there's no static. But basically saying all that to say like how you was able to see that when your friend was like, God gonna make your life a living hell till you write this book.
Yeah.
For you to see that and like pick up on these signs like, okay, it's time for me to start writing this book. I commend you on that.
Thank you.
Because most people don't see those signs.
I felt it. I was like, okay, God, all right, So it was rough. I was like, wait a minute, what you trying to write me through? Like, all right, I'm gonna write it. And so then, the doors began to open, and I felt free. There was a freedom within this because I had to be obedient. I had to be obedient to it. And so I released it, self-published everything, studied all that, what it takes to self-publish, some of the best publishing companies, registering with to get the book copywritten and all that. So, making sure I put the right pictures in here that were royalty-free pictures. So studying all that, how to self-publish a book. Because I wanted everything to be, I touched this whole thing. You know, I didn't want nobody else to write it. I didn't want no ghostwriters. I didn't want anybody else to go in and do all the setup for me. I found my own editor. I found my own all that. So, yeah.
So thank you so much for all of this information you gave. I didn't learn so much. It's some stuff I kind of knew, but you kind of like helped me understand it a little bit more.
Yeah.
But where can people, book you or find you at and things of that nature?
First of all, thank you for having me, right?
Absolutely.
So, and then connect, New Orleans to New Orleans. As always, I love it. So definitely the book at www.dreadiane.com, DreaDiane.com. On there you can book, you can shop. And so also too, if you want to do coaching sessions, that's another website I have, thefinanciallifeline.com, because I believe in resuscitating life back into your finances. So that's my mission, right? So DreaDiane.com for the book. Also too, it is at Barnes & Noble's website. So that's something, a new announcement I'm going to be making. It's now at Barnes & Noble. If you want a signed copy, go to the website. If not, definitely Barnes & Noble's to check it out through their website, and it can definitely be shipped to you, of course.
Y'all hear that? Y'all make sure y'all get y'all credit right, because it's not just your credit, it's just your whole overall being. In order for you to do that, you got to keep standing their chest, because failure is not an option. Yes, Lord.
We shall receive.
We shall receive.
Yes,
Thank you so
you're
much.
welcome. You're welcome.
Hey.
You're welcome. Absolutely. Thank you.